everyone, and welcome back to the STEAM Forward podcast. My name is Savanah, and I'm your host as always. And today we have guests by the name of Stephanie Sylvestre and, of course, Pastor David Freeman. And today we're going to be talking about AI, and we're going to be talking about Stephanie is a founder of a company called Avatar Buddy. And one thing about Stephanie is she was the Chief Information Officer and the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer for one of our partners, the Children's Trust. So please help me welcome Pastor David and Stephanie Sylvestre. Yes. Well, Stephanie, let's just jump into it. Can you just give us some of your background, your education? Who are you? Who is Stephanie?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that I'm exceedingly humbled and honored to be here. This is so much fun. I just love doing these kinds of things, and being able to promote AI is amazing. So I grew up in Belize, came here just before my 18th birthday and moved to LA. Went to USC for undergrad. I had a bachelor's in international relations. Then I moved to Miami, and I have a master's in international studies, Latin America, and international economics, environmental economics. And then right after that, I jumped into the tech space. I started out at Hewlett Packard, meeting somebody that was one of the original writers of the Unix code. And I think that's where I would say I got my base in computers, and I've spent the last 30 years working in the computer space. And most recently, I've been able, when I was at the Children's Trust, to interweave my love of technology with helping to make my community a better place.
So before we get into the conversation about all things AI, can you explain to us kind of your experience with learning like international studies and international relations and kind of what you did in that field of study?
So we were learning about diplomacy, negotiation, kind of forecasting and thinking about how people are going to do. I felt like these skills were very transferable to the tech space because computers are very predictable. If the computer stops working, it's because somebody did something. It's like, oh, I didn't do anything. I didn't move anything. It's just, something happened. Something changed in the environment. That's not unlike human beings that you could think that you negotiated a deal, and then you come back and, oh, well, I'm going to change this a little bit. And as part of my background, I was the honorary consul of Belize for 9 years in Miami. I was responsible for southeastern U.S. So that was a lot of fun, being able to be the honorary consul and represent Belize and really have it elevated status.
And in Belize, they speak Spanish.
English.
They speak English. I did not know that.
Belize is a Caribbean country in Central America. When I was growing up, it was the Caribbean heartbeat. The Caribbean heartbeat in Central America. And so our official language is actually English.
It is English, and it's not like an English dialect like patois. It's just straight English.
We have English, and then we also have a dialect called Creole, which is a mashup of English and some other words.
Okay. Well, I learned something new today. I love that. So, Pastor David, you like to call yourself the geek here for us at Gen 2050. I don't know why, but Pastor David, as we all know, he loves technology and tech. And so you want to take the lead on this conversation to kind of talk about Stephanie's company, Avatar Buddy.
Yes, and geek is now chic.
Yes, it is. I updated my LinkedIn to say tech geek instead of tech guru. Tech geek.
So Stephanie, when we first met, it was before COVID, and I learned that you were starting a company in AI, and I asked, which AI are you using? And I listed one, and you basically said, no, not that one. I'm using OpenAI. And that was the first I really heard of it. I guess my first question is, why did you guys choose OpenAI?
So sometimes when you're doing business and you look at this, you might think somebody went into some deep introspective thing, created a whole strategic plan. OpenAI accepted our application to use their solution, and so that's why we
Can you explain what OpenAI is?
Yes. So OpenAI is a company that is behind ChatGPT. And so our company uses the same engine that runs ChatGPT, and we've customized it. We had 4 psychologists with DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion background, train our instance of OpenAI, and we also have 3 more engines that we run and some custom code to make our product. So as I was telling Pastor David, ChatGPT is the vanilla ice cream. It's good. It works.
Yeah.
And Avatar Buddy is the double chocolate fudge.
Yeah.
Ice cream.
So we're making the assumption that everybody knows what AI is. We're just throwing it out there, but people are just now starting to understand what AI is. And there's something else getting ready to come. It's AGI. So what's the difference between the two?
So AI is it's an algorithm. And so like people are like, what is an algorithm? That's just like, so it's basically a formula. It's a bunch of formulas that you group together and you mix and match to come up with, oh, let's find the patterns in something and figure out how things can work.
Yeah.
AGI is the same thing, but it can find it can create its own formulas, and it can find patterns, and it can train itself. That's the difference between AI and AGI. And with like an example, when we were building out our product before we got hooked up with OpenAI, we were using just AI, and we had to manually script out the responses. When we got hooked up with OpenAI and we started using the AGI pieces of it, what we were able to do was just train it with some questions and responses, comments and responses, and then it learned how to respond from there. So our responses always start with validating. Like, I understand why you'd be frustrated. I understand why you're upset. It's so wonderful to hear you're happy. Congratulations that went well. Then whatever advice it will give you. And then recommendations, go speak to somebody, go speak to a friend, go speak to a teacher, go speak to a counselor, go speak to a therapist. And that's by design, because we don't want our solution to be a replacement of human interaction. It's supposed to augment and enhance the human interaction. So the idea is that by using technology to make us feel comfortable with ourselves, then we can interact more with human beings, have greater connection.
So I guess explain what Avatar, we didn't even get to that part. Explain what Avatar Buddy is. So they might be a little confused in this segment, but promote yourself. What is this amazing thing that you've created?
So Avatar Buddy is a digital version of a human. It has lots of different functionality. The way we're deploying it for after school, so with Trinity Church, we're partnered with them to deploy it to the kids in their Gen 2050 program to help provide tutoring, homework assistance, and emotional support. So sometimes, you're just having like a rough day, just upset. So like one day I was really upset. I'm like, oh man, I'm so frustrated. I could punch somebody. And it said, well, I'm sorry to hear you're frustrated, but violence is not the answer. Have you thought about taking deep breaths, going for a walk, watching a movie? Just kind of like things that we kind of should know how to redirect, helping us redirect and just kind of move away from whatever is frustrating us at that moment. And then for homework, just helping you do your homework if you're not understanding it. I think what's really cool about it is that you could ask it the same question 10, 15, 20 times, and it won't get frustrated with you. I was like, if you did that as a human being, it would. And so now we have this product where people, especially people from marginalized or low resource community, can have a tutor, can have homework assistance, can have a study guide, a study buddy, and can get emotional support real time, 24/7.
And you feel like kids would be more comfortable talking to an the AI over like a human being was kind of the thought.
No, it's that they can start talking to
Right.
the AI, and then because they're comfortable, they are
Yeah.
more comfortable talking to a human being. So another really interesting thing about how we went about developing this, and I'll just geek out a little bit. So we use this agile methodology for building our software, and that basically means that you build a little bit, you put it out, you get feedback, you iterate through, you build another piece, you put it out, you get feedback, you iterate through. So what we did was, first of all, we got some teenagers to help us design the product. And then we had them help us do requirement scattering. So we have enough of a backlog. So backlog just basically means a list of features and functionality that we need to add to the product to make it be like solid. Like we can't do anything else with it. Kind of like get into iPhone 13. I mean, it's 13, 14. There's not that much difference with it, but iPhone 1 to iPhone 13 is a big difference.
Right.
So kind of that. So we have about 5 years worth of features and functionality on our backlog. And then when we built the first prototype, we brought some of those same kids in and had them test it. And the first iteration of testing, when we're doing alpha testing, so normally when you roll out software, you do an alpha, beta, and then you do an MVP and market viable product. And then you have your product that you can start selling. So during our alpha testing, the kids were like, they gave us so much feedback that we had to spend an entire weekend rewriting the entire solution. And that was a good foundation. And then we hooked in with OpenAI, and that gave us more robust stuff. And then we had 3 teenagers continuing to test it for us. And then last summer, we had 145 teenagers testing our product with us, giving us feedback. And you say, like, why am I telling you all this? I'm going to get back to your question, which was one of their feedback was the importance of being able to create a safe space where nobody knows what you're saying and that they can delete their conversation. So you can have the conversation and it's safe because the way we're saving the conversation on, we're not able to say who said what. And then secondly, if you delete the conversation, it's the second level of detaching you from that randomized ID that we've attached to our conversation. And so we have the conversations that we can use to then retrain our brain, but we also create privacy and confidentiality. And we did a research project last summer with some people from and what we found was kids that were using their phones to soothe themselves and to avoid conversation. And this was just a month-long experiment, so nothing conclusive, but it looked like they were less likely to do that towards the end of the internship and at the beginning of the internship. We also found that the kids had greater self-awareness and greater self-esteem at the end of the program than at the beginning. And for us, that's a really big win, because when you're trying to have people believe in themselves and do self-development, self-esteem and self-awareness is important, right? You have to know what your strengths are. You have to know what your weaknesses are. You have to be aware of reading the room and realizing, oh, my bad, I said something inappropriate, and clean it up really quickly and not be resistant if somebody calls you on that. All of that stuff is important. So we're really happy with the results. And so right now, we're doing a pilot test. And this summer we'll do a second pilot, but we think by August we're going to be full
for everybody.
Full, like, knock yourself out. Right now we're still controlling who has access to it. And we're slowly releasing who has access to it, and we're hoping by May, people, if somebody's interested, they can just go to our website and sign up for it.
Yeah.
I'm so honored to be a part of this process.
It's awesome. Creating a safe place for kids. Oh, makes me want to cry. But yeah, go ahead, Pastor David.
So, as we were talking earlier about social media and the fear that's being perpetuated about AI in general, how would you soothe our listeners' fears over AI?
So I'm starting with human actors, human beings. They're good actors, they're bad actors.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of time we spend just focusing on the bad actors.
Yeah.
And that we don't really uplift the good actors. And so I used to tell my staff that, maybe 10% of something won't work. Maybe if we want to be very, very conservative, 15%. Why would we spend 80% of our time putting in processes and procedures for something that will happen 15% of the time? Why don't focus on the 85% of the time when everything is running well? 85% solid B. I'm a solid B kind of person. And so I say to people, if you are just reading stuff in the newspaper, reading stuff on the internet, and you have not interacted with any of these AI solutions, please, please go and interact with one first, then say that it's not bad. It's bad. So if you want to get a taste of Avatar Buddy, you can go to avatarbuddy.ai, and there's a contact us form that you can fill out, and happy to give you access so you can do a demo. Just really see that it's really not scary. That yes, it does sometimes say goofy things. If you talk to it for too long, it will get loopy. But if you talk to a human being for too long, they will get loopy too. You will get loopy as well. So it's I think it's working the way it's supposed to. And then sometimes it makes up stuff. But I mean, how many times have we hung out with human beings where they've made up stuff and said it with such confidence and bravado that you're like, okay, that doesn't sound right, but okay. It's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
It's absolutely the same thing. We still have to check. We still need to verify. In fact, now I think that the way the world is going, the need for critical thinking, problem solving, being able to do analysis, pick up patterns, those things become even more important. And your EQ, your emotional intelligence, becomes a much higher premium than your IQ, because now you can ask the AI the information, and for the most part, will serve up something accurate.
Yeah.
How is this going to merge with the metaverse?
So I like to dream big. Somebody actually said to me that sometimes our dreams are too big for our abilities.
No way.
And I was like, okay, thank you for that. That was a fire I needed to be.
Yeah.
I needed. I think that Avatar Buddy is a precursor where you're starting to get used to using AI in your day-to-day life. That's something that's going to be actively helping you be the best version of yourself. And you're also providing it feedback so that it can be a better version of itself, so it can better help you. And I think that eventually there's going to be this continuum where the metaverse kind of ends and the physical verse starts and back and forth.
Yeah.
And we're going to be moving seamlessly through this. And I'm hoping that our product is going to be one of the products that we're using. And the way I envision it being used is either as part of the device, your phone or your tablet, or maybe an embedded chip. I don't see how the VR and AR will work, just because it requires these big, heavy pieces of equipment that's not, it's not practical. Like, you can't drive around with a VR glasses on all day long.
And not to mention cost effective.
And yes, and a barrier to entry. So there's too much friction. I think, I'm sure that somebody's coming up with a way that, you're wearing your glasses and you can flip into VR mode and then back to regular mode. But until such time, I think that the phone and creating this continuum and possibly implants. I mean, there are some solutions that already started doing implants, so I don't think that that's that far fetched.
So when you say implants for our listeners, are we talking brain computer interfaces?
I don't know. Maybe you implant a chip in your wrist.
I'm kind of for the non-invasive, where we can just kind of lead things into our brain.
Yeah, and like the iPhone nowadays, you can hold it and it can take your temperature. It can scan your body.
Yep.
And so it can those things actually are a symptom of something else. So we know that when we're very nervous, our hands get clammy.
Yeah.
It can detect your moisture level in your hand and say, are you okay? And why can't we build that into our solution?
Yeah.
It's actually one of the features on our product roadmap.
So you're at the cutting edge of technology.
That's what, yeah.
And in your time, like this, the 5 years working with AI, are you noticing the acceleration in technology? And how does AI help facilitate that?
So when we started this project, there was no technology to do what I wanted it to do. In fact, a bunch of developers said not possible. And then 2 years later, I went back to them and they're like, I don't know. And I said, look, if I can think about it, it does exist. So we looked around, and then I saw Sophia from Hanson Robotics. I started following them, and oh my God, Ben Gorski, and started reading a whole bunch of things that they produce, looking at their videos and so forth. And I was like, yes, it's coming. And then we found the company first, and they were like, give us $5 million and we'll build a brain. But then when they wrote up the specs of what they were going to give us, I was like, no, this is not what we want. So we parted ways with them, and then we took a little bit of a break during COVID. Like, we paused for about 3 or 4 months, and then we regrouped with another developer. And when like I said, we started doing these decision trees. Not very exciting, but just kind of like see, so we can prototype. And then we hooked up with OpenAI, and that's really when it started to take off. And I think that since they released GPT 3.5, that has really helped our solution get tighter and more refined.
Well, we could probably talk for hours.
It's exciting stuff, honestly.
But we're going to go ahead and close.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to close with a word of the day. You could pick a word. What would you say regarding AI?
So I think the word of the day is humility. So we're in a space of deep learning. We don't know what all great things it can do. We also don't know what all bad things it can do. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's all good, because nothing is all good and nothing is all bad. But we just need to be sensitive to being aware of that. And if we're leaning into learning new information and testing and so forth from a position of humility, then when things don't go right, we are more open to fixing it and adjusting it, as opposed to blaming and pushing back.
Yeah. Well, Stephanie, I'm so impressed by your tenacity and your ambition, and I'm going to get me an avatar buddy. I want to test this product out.
Absolutely. We can definitely hook you up with one.
Well, thank you so much for just being a part of this conversation and leading us in a positive direction towards the AI, because you have to move with them or you're going to be left behind.
Exactly.
And as always, there's 2 sponsors that we always like to thank, and those are the Trinity Church and the Children's Trust. And don't forget, there are 3 ways in which you can watch or listen to the Steam Forward podcast, and the ways to listen are through Apple and Spotify. And if you'd like to watch, just follow us over on YouTube. And as always, remember, this is the Steam Forward podcast.
Steam Forward